Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and I will check from time to time. Today's guest is Donna Shields, who has an extensive career in health, nutrition, and in the culinary world. She's a registered dietitian. She began her career through the U.S. Army Medical Corps. She has a master's in communications from Boston U. She's been a nutritional spokesperson for Fortune 100 brands, freelance food nutrition writer, full-time faculty at the Culinary Institute of America. She's written cookbooks. I've known her for eons and happy to introduce you to Donna. She has recently logged in over, get this, 15,000 miles riding on the back of a motorcycle. She has homes in Key West, which I want to check with her and make sure everything's okay there, Colorado, and now is living part-time permanently in Oaxaca, Mexico, where she's coming to us today from Oaxaca. Her late director for the Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival in February. Let's bring in Donna.
Hi, Dara.
I had so much to say about you. I hope you didn't fall asleep while I was giving the introduction. I meant to ask you, how's everything in Key West? Did you check
We
in?
dodged the bullet. We were very lucky with this one and Helene last week. So far, so good this season.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. So, other than doing this show today, what's on your plate to be done?
Well, as you said, I'm here in Oaxaca. I got here about 2 weeks ago, and I'm here for the long haul now. And I'm in the process of really buttoning up all the details for the inaugural Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival, which is happening in February of this coming year. So I'm super excited about that. And you know what you do here in Oaxaca is you go out to eat. I mean, that's a sport here.
And in many places, but isn't Oaxaca considered sort of the top of the cuisine in Mexico? It has a very great reputation for the food and the mezcal and chocolate.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Oaxaca Festival. And then I want to come back. I have questions because I've known you for a while. I have questions about your career and the 15,000 miles on the back of a big bike. So tell everybody about it's the Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival.com,
Right.
Facebook, Instagram, and it's all up there, the website. But you were, I said, buttoning down some of the details. So what can one expect if they sign up for the Food and Wine Festival? Because it's not a huge, you're not looking for it to be huge.
No.
You notice how big my arms are.
No.
So go ahead, talk. I'm just going to have my tea.
You know, when you say festival, sometimes people get in their mind, you know, those ginormous events under a tent and, you know, it's 1,000 people. No, this is a much more intimate and upfront and close event for about 50 guests over the course of 4 days. This is February 20th through the 23rd this year coming up, 2025. And we've put together 8 events that I think will be a great introduction to the cuisine, the world of Mexican wines, which no one really understands how wonderful they are. And of course, the mezcal culture that is so prevalent here in Oaxaca. So we have wine pairing dinners. You'll be eating moles, which of course is one of the quintessential dishes here in Oaxaca. We have a cacao and chocolate making workshop. We'll tour a typical market and then have lunch in something called the Hall of Smoke, which is quite an experience. We've got brunch at a beautiful Michelin guide restaurant. So, I feel like I've mixed the events between some higher end events, but giving you a real world glimpse of what this Oaxacan cuisine is all about. And you're right, it is different than what you may see in the rest of Mexico. As an American, I think most of us have this very myopic view of what Mexican food is. And just like in the States, the food varies depending on what state you're in. And the same is true here in Mexico. And Oaxaca is known for its unique cuisine because it is the state in Mexico which has really the largest number of indigenous people. So you have this very interesting mix of culture and foods, which has maintained itself over the ages. And so it's really this great mixture of pre-Hispanic cuisine with some very modern touches. And when you wrap that all together, it's going to make for a great 4-day experience for people who want to try something new.
And to be part of a group. Now, if I remember correctly, you can set it up where you take care of accommodations as well as, but if some people are traveling through, they can buy into individual classes or buy
Right.
the individual without the accommodations.
Exactly. We have 3 offers. One is the full VIP package, which is all 8 events with lodging that we've already set up for you. These are places that I know and I trust. I've been to the hotels. Or you can just buy the 8 event package and get your own lodging. And then if you're just kind of passing through, as you said, you can buy tickets individually for each of those 8 events. So we're trying to give people options.
And you also have a secondary business. Well, you have a lot of things because I've never known you just to do one thing,
Yes.
but you have now helped people relocate and come into Oaxaca. And let's tell your story. When did Oaxaca happen for you and why?
So,
Because
during COVID, we were living in Key West, as I had been there, of course, for many years. We renovated, another thing my partner and I do, we renovate houses, and we got a house in Key West, renovated it, flipped it, and then we said, okay, we need a break because it was like the hardest thing I've ever done. Bought a new motorcycle and took off for Mexico for 3 months. And that's the 15,000-mile trip that you mentioned. We touched down in about 30 different cities, towns, villages, and really got a quick, but I think a pretty good feel for what Mexico was about. And after all of that, we said, Oaxaca kind of ticked a lot of boxes for us. It just sort of felt good. So we went back the next year and stayed a month. And then we came back again this past year, stayed for 8 months. So, it's very different when you're just passing through on a motorcycle versus when you're here and you have to go grocery shopping and do laundry. And what's life really like? So we decided that, yeah, this is feeling really good. And so here we are. And we're living right here in the centro part of town. And it's it's architecturally, it's an interesting city. Of course, the food is great. But one of the things that has struck us is the people are so lovely. They're so accommodating. We've just had a great experience, really, in all of Mexico. And it's funny, Dara, the first thing that people ask me when, they see what I've been doing, the very first question is, oh my God, is it safe? And I'm like, yeah. It's there are places in Mexico that are not safe. And there are places, in downtown inner cities in the US that you wouldn't go. So, Mexico has a little bit of a PR problem when it comes to safety, is what I say to people. And our experience personally has been fantastic. That doesn't mean if you're not being smart, we don't ride the motorcycle at night. I don't go to areas I know are not a good idea. You use your head. So I bring this up because it's one of the first things that people always say to me, "Oh my God, is it safe?" And for
But
us, it's been a great experience.
safety didn't even cross my mind. Mine was, my God, she rode all those miles on the back of a motorcycle. There
Yeah, it's
must
a
there
lot of
must
togetherness.
there must be a story or two that's worth telling about your motorcycle trip.
Oh, there's a lot of stories. One of the things I quickly learned at the beginning is when you get off the bike, for gas or whatever you're stopping for, you take your helmet off and you're supposed to sit it on one of the handlebars. You don't put it down on the ground because, as I quickly found out, I placed it in a wad of dog poop. Now that sounds silly, but I mean, these are the little things that you learn along the way. And I am not someone who is a lifelong biker. This is new to me, really, late in life. My partner Gary, has been a lifelong fan of riding motorcycles, and it's one of those things you either are terrified of it or you think it's just the bomb. And I mean, I just took to it and I really enjoy it. It's a very freeing feeling, like there's nothing between you and the outside. So, and that can be a scary thing, or I find it very exhilarating. So it's been a blast.
Well, kudos. You never stop to surprise me in the things that you do. So I tell people I work with Donna. I looked it up. I did some work for her back in 2007. And her son was 9 years old. You said he's 26 now.
Yep.
Um, but what I didn't remember, and I'm curious about, your career started in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. I'm curious. Tell me more about that.
Well, as a dietitian, when you're after you leave college, you need an internship in order to, and at least this was the criteria at the time. Certainly things have changed over the years, but I needed an internship, and I normally you would go to a hospital somewhere and put in a year of pretty much being unpaid help. And I really didn't want to do that. So the Army at the time had a great program where you could do your 1 year and then you only had to pay them back another year, which was phenomenal because, unlike a lot of other medical practitioners, nurses, doctors who, often get their training through the military, you often have to pay back maybe 3 years, 4 years, or even more. So the idea of putting in 1 year and then I paid back my year, so to speak, at Fort Knox. And then I was a free agent. I did stay in the reserves for about 10 years,
Okay.
but then I continued on. And actually, after that is when I went to Boston University to get the master's degree in nutrition communications.
You know, you're also, just to let people know, when I met you, I think you had just passed becoming a personal trainer. Didn't you get
Yeah,
you got
I
certified for that? And just there's nothing, you're always doing a million things. So you were you have some abode in Colorado, and you were there working. You set up a site about cannabis and
yes.
letting. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I did move to Colorado, and one of the reasons was to be right in the middle of ground zero in the cannabis industry at that time, because, Colorado was at the forefront of legalizing cannabis recreationally. And so my business partner at the time and we saw there being a real gap among health practitioners, because cannabis does indeed have a lot of therapeutic value, but we weren't trained to know about it in the medical profession. So, from doctors, chiropractors, nurse practitioners, yoga instructors, these are all people that are dispensing health information at some level, and their clients are asking them about cannabis, and they have no idea what to say. So
Right.
we built an online training program, the Holistic Cannabis Academy, and really touched on some of the key illnesses and conditions for which cannabis has therapeutic value. And so we really built our program around what we felt practitioners needed to know, certainly at the entry level, so they could talk more intelligently to their clients about it. And we used practitioners from around the country who are experts. It's not me being the expert, because I wasn't, but we had various physicians, nurses, chiropractors. We were able to find practitioners who were the kind of people that we wanted to reach in the audience, who did have expertise in this. And so I did that. I was in that business for about 5 years. And, it's very difficult being in a startup. That was my first entree really into an online business, and being a startup and looking for investor funding. And it's a lot. But it was a great learning experience, really.
I mean, there isn't, I let people know that, you work with Fortune 500 companies, Coca-Cola, Barillo, the National Peanut Board, U.S. Tuna Federation, in translating progressive nutrition science into delicious tasting food. There's very little that you haven't done. Health and culinary communications for Walden Farms, Tofuti, Florida Department of Citrus, Pepperidge Farms. I mean, I went back.
You
I,
did.
I did
I
not.
don't even remember all that.
You did a Caribbean light cooking and fitness tour for Norwegian cruise line.
Yeah.
You taught nutrition to undergrad and professional chefs, and developed curriculum for the CIA, for those of you, Culinary Institute of America, the premier culinary school, if that's where you want to get a degree from in culinary schools. And I went there for a 4-day thing that I set up when I had the Epicurean Club, and took friends up there, and we did classes and stayed on campus. It was fun, but it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. So we have, let's talk about everything. We have the Oaxacan Food and Wine Festival.
Yep.
We have the, it's coming up here in the notes, but you have a link there to, if people are interested in relocating to Oaxaca.
Yes. Because I just went through this whole process, having made a few visits here, and the last time we actually were looking for a house to buy. And the whole real estate thing here is very different than anything we are used to in the US. Looking for a new, and on the last trip, when I was here for 8 months, we moved about 5 times during those 8 months. And I did that on purpose, because I wanted to try different neighborhoods, because you get a different vibe depending on where you live. So, I went through a lot of, there was a lot of process of looking at property, looking at neighborhoods, figuring out what I like, what I don't like, what's the transportation like, how close is it to walk to the mercado. So I thought, I can probably shortcut that process for people, especially if you're just coming down for like a week and it's kind of a scouting trip and you're maybe thinking of retiring or you're thinking about moving. So I feel that there's a need for someone like me to be able to guide people, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. Where I'm kind of getting that off the ground, and it's what I call a neighborhood scouting trip. So, based on what you say you're interested in, your budget, the kind of lifestyle that you're looking for, I can help you, shortcut what it took me 8 months to figure out.
Okay. And hopefully the link will come up. It's under Open Mind Adventures, Donna Shields. And if
Openmindadventures.com, and there's a link on there. One of the tabs on the top says travel and relocation services.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's should be coming up at some point. I sent that along a little bit later because I was getting into that today. I think, more and more people, considering the political feel, are looking for alternatives. They want to leave the state. So I think there's much more interest going and traveling and leaving the U.S. I hope that really doesn't become the case. I think I remember something I was reading or the YouTube, whatever. Anybody can be a real estate agent in Oaxaca.
Right now, yes. I could be a realtor tomorrow. I was just having this discussion yesterday with a Mexican friend of mine, and unlike the US, where there's a standard for realtors and they all operate, under this national criteria, it varies depending on where you are. So in some areas of Mexico, say Cabo, the Cancun area, there is a more standardized criteria for realtors, and they have to be licensed. There is a national or a countrywide licensure that does exist here in Mexico, but it is not required here in Oaxaca. So that's one of the things that makes it so difficult to look for housing, because anybody can say they're a realtor. There is no such thing as an MLS listing. So there's no one place to go look for what's for sale or even what's for rent. So it's a lot of hunting and pecking. I scrolled a lot of Facebook pages looking for property, and then you have to contact that realtor. And this is really funny. There was one incident where I had two different realtors show me the same house, but with a different price. Now that doesn't happen in the States. The price is the listing price, right?
Right.
So it's a little crazy. And that too is something, having had that experience now, where I've got a network of people here, Mexicans who I love and trust, and they're smart people and they know what they're doing in this field. I have an immigration attorney now. So, I now have this little network of people that I can go to who can help facilitate this process for people.
That's great. That's great. So just remind people, Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival.com, Instagram, Facebook, Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival. That's sort of all you need to know, but you have to figure out how to spell Oaxaca.
That's the hard part.
Oaxaca, Oaxaca.
Yeah.
That's the only one. But if you have trouble and you can't reach Donna, reach out to me. I'll make sure that you connect. Well, it's time to go through my questions that I do at the end of the show. What is the best piece of advice you would go back and give your 18-year-old self?
I would tell myself to lighten up a little bit. I was extremely driven, and that has its ups and its downs. And yeah, I would probably lighten up just a little bit.
Okay. And what is the best bite you've had all week?
Oh, I was at one of the restaurants that we're using for our wine pairing dinner on Saturday night. Beautiful restaurant called Cruise at a luxury hotel, Hotel Flavia. It was a grilled shrimp with yellow mole, and it was fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, mole is one of the iconic dishes, and it's done in at least 7 different varieties. And so the yellow mole goes beautifully with seafood, and that's one of the dishes that we have on that menu. So that was fantastic.
Well, sounds good. Can you give me a little bit? I'm curious about yellow mole because all I think of is chilies. I know of chocolate mole. So, what is a yellow mole? Can you give me a little bit more insight?
Well, I mean, moles in general are very complicated dishes that can have 20, 30 ingredients. I'm not kidding.
Right.
So even the locals often don't necessarily make them from scratch. You can buy moles of different types in the market. It kind of comes in a paste, and then you reconstitute it with a broth for whatever dish you're making. But yes, there's the black mole, which has chocolate in it, and it's a very distinctive flavor. You either like it or you don't. Yellow mole partly gets its color from the kind of pepper that is used. It's more of a yellow color, and it has seeds and nuts and probably cinnamon, cumin. I mean, I'm not kidding. Most of these are like many, many ingredients. So they're complex things to make, and that's what makes it so interesting to go out to a restaurant and try different moles. And so there's at least 7 that you can find here in Oaxaca that are commonly on menus.
Okay, thank you for the insight. What 2 things must be in your refrigerator?
Oh, that's easy. Eggs and leafy greens, because I'm like this weird person that eats, the way I eat my eggs in the morning is a sunny side egg over a salad. It's kind of like how the French make their salad. I don't know what the name exactly is, where they make the salad with the lardons, the little
Right.
chunks of, and then they put an egg over the top. And when you break the egg, it kind of oozes over the lettuce. I find it delicious. So like I always have eggs and some sort of leafy greens in the fridge.
Okay, that's your morning.
That's my morning.
Okay. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Yeah, that's painful. One of my many things I've tried over the years, I launched something called the Key West Cooking School. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. And it was, but it was ahead of its time. This is probably 25, 30 years ago. And I didn't have a fixed location. So I was kind of moving it around to different places. It just didn't work. It was a good concept, but I wasn't executing it right. But I still think it was a good idea.
Okay. If you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Oh yeah, I always said if I didn't go into the food field, I wish I could sing, because I always wanted to be a backup singer in a girl band.
Yeah. You never wanted to be the lead?
No,
No,
I don't need to be the lead. No, no. Like I like to dance, and if I could sing, I totally would like to be a backup singer.
that's interesting, the
Yeah.
backup singer. I like that. So you'd be doing these.
Yeah, I could do my thing over there and,
Yeah, and go do-wah, do-wah, do-wah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
cool,
Like,
cool.
if I could have worked with Aretha, oh my God, that would have been amazing.
And finally, what didn't I ask you that I probably should have? Do what does the audience need to hear that we didn't cover?
What does a grasshopper taste like? Because grasshoppers, which are called chapellinis, are sold everywhere here. It is something that is the locals eat, and you will find it in high-end restaurants as well. And it was new to me. So it's one of those things, most people are squeamish about it, but you got to try it just to say you did. And they're crunchy, as you can imagine. And a lot of the locals, they're sold in big bags at the mercado. How I actually enjoy them more is when they're just sprinkled on top of maybe a taco, just a little bit. And they come seasoned, so you can buy them with a garlic seasoning, a chile, a limon. So when you come to Oaxaca, you absolutely must try chapelini.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, everyone, I want to thank Donna Shields, just Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival, and that'll lead you to everything else that you need to know. And Donna, it's great reconnecting, and I can't believe your son is 26 years
I
old.
can't believe it. I know. Yeah, it's been interesting being an older mom and having a 20 something, and it's a very interesting way to be a parent at this point in time, and watch somebody navigate through today's world, which is very different, of course, when I was starting my career. So yeah, it's all been great.
So where is he Key West? Where has he ended up and what is he doing? I'm just being nosy.
That he right now is living in Orlando. He had gone to college in Boulder, and he is a young man who has majored in women and gender studies. So he is interested in working in the nonprofit world, making the world a better
Uh,
place and doing some philanthropic kind of work. So he's just getting going on his career.
That's great. Donna, all the best. And if I become flush and there's time, you might just see me at the Oaxaca Food and Wine Festival. I just
I
think
hope so.
it would be fun. I have to, somewhere along the line, I got to come up with that. It's nothing like being a senior and living on a limited budget. Um, but all the best, good health.
Thanks.
Glad that everybody that you know in Florida and everything is okay. And we'll stay in touch beyond this. And all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dara. Nice to see you again.
Yes, it's been great. All righty here. So next week's guest will be one of the most creative chefs I've ever met. His name is Cyrus Kiefer. He is based here in Baltimore, but has a background through Delaware and Pennsylvania. The path of a chef is always unique. There are always hurdles. Cyrus, along with his chefing for special occasions, is a restaurant consultant. How did one go from a scholarship in voice to cooking? Tune in for the full story next Thursday. Those of you selling Yom Kippur, may you have an easy fast. As always, feel free to reach me at my email address, food@jmoreliving.com, or at Dara Cooks on Instagram and on Facebook, The Food Enthusiast. You can sign up for jmoreliving.com's free This is the Week in Eating newsletter, which is every Tuesday. Click on the Connect tab on jmoreliving.com website and sign up for the newsletter This Week in Baltimore Eating newsletter. All shows are immediately archived in video form on JMore Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. It helps it grow. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always remain full. I hope to see you next Thursday.